Let's now discuss what happens in the sprint planning meeting. Let's say entire Scrum team is gathered for a sprint planning meeting. So what happens is the Scrum Master will start looking into the project for which the sprint has to be planned. So for us, we are in the fresh market project and we are in the backlogs. Okay, the moment you click on the backlogs, you will see all the user stories for which you have actually assigned the priorities, and as well as you have defined the acceptance criteria in the backlog refinement process. Alright, so now we have 10 issues in the backlog. We need to decide on how many issues or how many user stories we are going to complete in our sprint. Let's say we are having a release in 2 weeks of time, and for us each sprint is 1 week of time. Okay, so first we need to decide for the first sprint, that is for the first 1 week of time, how many user stories we are going to work on. So how can we decide that? So what happens is, like the Scrum Master and the entire dev team will discuss together like how many story points we can practically achieve by the end of the sprint. That means, remember, we have actually assigned the story points for each and every story in the backlog refinement process. So like 4, 5, 2, right? So these are the story points for each user story. So let's say we are aiming to achieve 10 or maybe let's say 20 story points by end of the sprint. That means we need to pick user stories which will add up to 20 story points. Okay, so how do you decide that? So Scrum Master will discuss with the entire dev team in the sprint planning meeting, and will check to see if the entire team is available for that sprint, and also we'll discuss like everyone's availability, like if anyone is going to go on a holiday or if anyone is busy working in some other projects. In some companies, same team member might be working for different projects, like one person can be working on multiple projects, right? So the Scrum Master will make sure like the availability of all the team for the next 1 week and check to see if we are in a condition to achieve the 20 story points. If not, we can if we are not in a condition to achieve the estimated 20 story points, either depending upon the team size, the Scrum Master will decide on reducing the story points or might be increasing the story points. Alright, so let's say for now we are, or the Scrum Master for our team has decided that we will be achieving 20 story points for one sprint. Okay, so what we are going to do? First thing is we need to create a sprint. Okay, so we have that option on top of the backlogs. See, the moment you clicked on create a sprint, it is actually asking you to plan your sprint. So this is what we have done, right? In the sprint planning meeting, the first thing is, as a team, we are agreeing on what work needs to be completed, and then drag these issues to the sprint. So we have agreed that we will be completing 20 story points, and then we will be dragging those story points which will add up to 20. Okay, so how are we going to do? So now you can see we have 10 backlog issues. Are we going to drag the issues randomly onto your sprint? No. We will be, based upon looking into the priority here, whichever has the highest priority will be first pulled into the sprint. Okay, so we have like 4 high priority items. So let's start pulling the user stories into a sprint. See, observe here, the moment you are trying to add each and every story, you can find the estimate number is growing up. Okay, see, now the total estimate is 18. So what is the aim for us? To achieve 20. So you can pull this issue here so that we can successfully achieve 20 story points for this sprint. So what is this 20 story points? The value of the product that we are trying to achieve by the end of the sprint is 20, and this is also the velocity. Velocity is what is your team speed. Okay, how quickly your developing the user stories. So now we have pulled all the user stories into a sprint. Let's actually start the sprint. Okay, let's click on start sprint. Okay, let's give the name as sprint 1, and duration we can say ours has a 1 week time. So today is 3rd of July, so end date would be, let's say, 10th of July. Okay, and usually what is the start time? Like, let's say we start our work at 9 a.m. so I can give as 9 a.m. and end date again it's like 10th July 9 a.m. Okay, so I can say start. Sprint has successfully been started. Okay, the moment the sprint is started, if you observe, where are we? We are no more on the backlog. Jira has redirected us by default into active sprints. Now let's look into the active sprint board.